we will see the results at the end. Now that we have, let's say, these clusters on the page, we would like to classify them. And the idea is to find a sort of, to find in the literature a sort of official classification of the annotations. This is a very hard task to do. Catherine Marshall has published many papers in this topic, and she basically provides a mapping between form and function of the annotation, so that from the form, the visual form of the annotation, we can think about a relative cognitive function. For example, we use underlining, highlighting on section headings to capture the attention of the student and to invite him, to let the student invite himself in rereading the content of the section. On the other hand, we underline or highlight words and phrases as memory aid. We put notes in the margin as complement of the content that we are annotating. For example, if we have a theorem, we provide a proof of the theorem, or we solve an equations, for example. The notes in between the text lines are more interpretative references, and she also observed that excessive highlighting or underlining is index of scarce understanding. And then we have, okay, all the not related marks, they actually constitute the index of distraction. So how do we, according to this schema, we would like to classify our annotations, and we employ a decision tree classifier to do this. So that from the segmented annotation, we go to a further spatial separation. The annotation itself is separated inside or outside the text box. Then we proceed with the next step of the decision tree classifier, so that according to a notion of measure of rectangularity, we separate annotations in more compact regions, in more arbitrary regions. And the three classes that we have, that are a sort of regroup of the classes that we've seen before from Catherine Marshall, are note over the text, highlighted area in general, and notes in the margin. Now, how do we measure the rectangularity? Basically, this is a rectangular notation. We use a measure proposed by Rosin, is shape processing, and it gives a sort of normalized value of the rectangularity of the shape. In this case, the annotation is very rectangular. The values, as I said, are normalized, and the threshold to determine whether an annotation is rectangular or not is given by the decision tree classifier. So this is a typical result. The measure of rectangularity is based on an elliptic approximation of each annotation. These are the ellipses, and the color of the ellipses is shown as different classifications. So we have highlighted regions, interline notes, and notes in the margins. Let's see some strengths and weaknesses of this approach. Well, here, for example, we have three annotations in very close proximity, and it's interesting to see how they are really well separated. There is no risk in detecting them like a very single shape that will be wrongly clustered and wrongly classified. Our approach is completely language independent, and but there are some limits. For example, chains of highlighted passages are correctly clustered, but in the classification process this is not really well classified, because this forms a sort of shape that is not really rectangular anymore. In this case, this is not classified as highlighted passage. self-containing annotation, like highlighted comments, are a borderline case. Sometimes they are well identified, sometimes not. In this case, the red ink diffuses in the highlight ink, and this is clustered as one single element. And the approach is not really well suited to capture the notion of linking between different annotations. Some preliminary experimental results. We involved a culturally heterogeneous group of master and PhD students, and we collected a total of 571 annotations. They asked them to write annotation in their own native language and their personal style. The only constraint was that we asked them to use the same color for each type of annotation, so that it would have been easier and more objective for us to evaluate the method. And we claim, we actually observed this classification accuracy, 84.47%. So now, what's this for? We have just designed, we're about to conduct an experiment involving eye tracking machines, involving students or subjects in reading and rereading sessions, so that we would like to, we thought about three different text versions for the experiment: the non-annotated version, the self-annotated document, and the socially annotated document. And we would like to investigate whether these three different text versions lead to a better understanding of the text or not. And if this method, if this outcome is in a certain way explained better by the gaze data. And to see if the annotation, here is more clear maybe, if the annotation type will affect or not the outcome of the experiment. That's it. For the future, so as I said, we would like to conduct this experiment, and we would like to extend the method in order to reach a finer granularity of the classification process, higher accuracy. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I will try to answer.